Hello and welcome to India on 99.94, your home of Indian cricket content. I'm your host, Nikesh Shrigani, BBC and SEN cricket commentator, alongside Sarah Waris of Wisden, as always. Sarah, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a hectic few days. My sister just had surgery for a gallbladder and all that. So yeah, been hectic. Not up to date with cricket as much, and yeah, that's why we are doing a podcast after a relatively long time. How was your Christmas?
Yeah, it was good. A little bit of time off with the family, so that was nice. And back on it now. No extended Christmas break. I'm on Big Bash commentary duty for the BBC, which is good fun. Not the greatest tournament like it was previously. Standard has declined a little bit, but yeah, all good fun. Back to be in the box calling games, which is what I love doing. I have been trying to keep across as much cricket as possible. There's lots going on at the moment. Australia, South Africa, Pakistan, New Zealand have kicked off as well in that first test match. And of course, in the early hours for me in the UK, I was getting up across the Christmas period as well, including on Christmas Day. I had to set my alarm for 3:30 in the morning to try and see if India could win that second test match in Bangladesh. And it was close. It was
Hmm.
a lot closer than it should have been. India probably shouldn't have been chasing as many as
Yeah.
they were, but even then, it should have been in hand a little bit more. Responsibility from the top order batters should have been taken, perhaps. But Ashwin, the hero, once again alongside Shreyas Iyer, who was brilliant, I thought, and 2-0 looks good on paper. Plenty of cracks, I think, within that side, which were sort of papered over a little bit with that victory. But we'll discuss that on today's episode, and not just the match, but just the way the test side is shaping up as a whole. But Sarah, I will put this to you to start with. The batting. The batting has been a concern for quite some time now, and it's across
Hmm.
formats really, but especially in Test cricket. It was what kind of lost India the series in South Africa when they should have won that series. They were in winning positions. The bowling was
Hmm.
fantastic. The batting wasn't consistent enough. And just throughout Test cricket, the England Test match, okay, that was a one-off. England chased their highest ever total to win that Test match, but still, you felt India left a lot out there with the bat. They didn't sort of make the most of their opportunities. Is it a technical
Hmm.
problem? Is it a personnel problem? What is going on? Why can't they play? I mean, this is Bangladesh. They're playing in conditions which should be suited to their kind of batters, a little bit slower, a little
Hmm.
bit lower, but still the same old problems arise.
Yeah. I think it starts right from the top. Though this was I used, obviously we didn't have the podcast back then, but when Virat Kohli stepped down from captaincy and there were talks that Rohit Sharma will be the next captain, I was always against that because of the injury issues. And Rohit Sharma has not played a single overseas test match this year. So, which is, he's your specialist test captain. So, KL Rahul, Jasprit Bumrahs, who have captained more overseas matches than Rohit Sharma has, which is weird, which is, bewildering. And it starts right from the top. You need your He was brilliant in England last year, and even the home series against England last year, and uh, the Sri Lanka test match this year. So he was brilliant, and you need someone like him. Obviously he didn't have the best start to his test career, and almost like a Yuvraj Singh, you could say, white ball beast, and not as effective in test matches, but he's managed to turn that round since the Australia series. And you need someone like him if he's in form, and he's been doing well. You need someone like him. You need your captain right at the top, and uh, that's what India has been missing, especially with Cheteshwar Pujara. For the large parts, he wasn't in form. He did score more than a handy knocks against Bangladesh, but for the most parts, he wasn't in form. Virat Kohli, I was just looking at this one stat, which is bizarre, and it's almost sad, what Virat Kohli is going through. Since 2020, he's played 36 innings, and 36 whoever has played 36 or more innings, so Virat Kohli averages around 27, which is the second worst. The only player who has a worse average than him is James Anderson, who has an average of around 6. So, it just shows what a horrid run he's going through. So
Jimmy will love that, by the
it's
way.
that, and
Jimmy Anderson will
yeah.
love that stat, that he's not too far behind Virat.
Yeah, fair point. And the frequent injuries have just put a question mark over who the openers are. Is it KL Rahul? Is it Shubman Gill? Who do you think, like, going forward, if everyone is fit, who do you think the best openers are? Should Shubman Gill bat down the order? But then there's Shreyas Iyer, who's been doing well. Though Shreyas Iyer has his issues against the short ball, which England exploited in the fifth Test match. So yeah, how do you see that whole opening conundrum being solved in the
See,
Border
I
Gavaskar
don't think in
series?
the short term, and I'm going to ask you for your side to face Australia in the first test as things stand at the moment, a little bit later on in the podcast. But just based on what I was saying before, look, KL Rahul is a man who's in rubbish form, but I think more
Hmm.
so than that, mentally, he just looks shot. He cannot take the pressure of being captain on top of not being able to score runs and also the intense pressure that's coming on him from the media and the
Hmm.
fans. And I think a lot of that is justified because he's just not scoring runs and hasn't really performed in the big moments. And it's usually that one good innings in
Hmm.
8 or 10, which kind of saves him and then gets him another long rope in the side.
Yeah.
So that needs to stop. And if it was me, I'd put Gill
Hmm.
straight in at the top of the order alongside Rohit Sharma. And one of the reasons being obviously KL Rahul's form, but also I think the way India play at the moment is that Rishabh Pant bats at 5. So if your keeper is batting at 5 and not 7, which is the traditional wicketkeeper's position, and the wicketkeeper can be considered an all-rounder as well, then you're not really going to play. You're going to play a specialist batter at 6, but then you're not going to play a specialist batter at
Yeah.
7. You usually want an all-rounder. So
Hmm.
Shreyas Iyer has to play in that middle order, and there's Pujara in the short term, along with Kohli. I think they have to play against Australia because Pujara is obviously in good form, and Kohli is the man for the big moment. He's been there and done it against these guys, and these they're the top of the tree at the moment, Australia, in terms of the World Test
Hmm.
Championship table. So you need your big guns to be playing in that match, and Australia fear Virat Kohli. That's the key
Yeah.
thing going into that series. They fear Virat. So Shubman Gill, I think, as far as the openers are concerned,
Hmm.
I would have him straight in there opening alongside KL Rahul, particularly in Indian conditions, because look, they've tried him abroad. He's done well, did well in Australia, and then obviously had the injury problems and was out of the side, and KL came in and did well in England in 2021. But that was KL Rahul back then. This is the situation now as it is. You've got 4 test matches. You need to win 3 of them at least to get into that World Test Championship final. So give yourself the best chance. Go with the players who are in form. And I think Gill is a shoe-in. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I did talk about how KL Rahul should be probably given an extended row because he did well in England and he did well in South Africa. But yeah, listening to what you've said, it's true. That was a year ago, and a lot has changed in 1 year. He has, yeah, he did well in those series, but a lot has changed, and he's just, sometimes, as Virat Kohli, he took a break recently. He did say that sometimes, you just don't need to touch the bat. Plus, KL Rahul has been struggling with injuries a lot, like almost same as Rohit Sharma. It's like both of them haven't played a series in forever. I don't remember when both of them were fit together. It was the England series last year. After that, I don't think, yeah, they've played much together. So sometimes, yeah, it's just that, you need to keep your bat away and just focus on getting your mental thing right. And yeah, I think even the Lucknow Super Giants, when he was the captain in the IPL, he did look out of sorts against. He was on top of the run charts, which you expect of him, but his strike rate was again a big issue. So it's just that, probably he needs to step back and reevaluate what the future holds for him, because there are reports coming in, again, it's Indian cricket reports, media leaks and all that, that KL Rahul could be axed from the T20I series against Sri Lanka. We don't know that yet. The squad could be announced in a day or two, so we still don't know that yet. But that wouldn't be the worst move, because yeah, and Gill at the top, I think, yeah, right now he's earned it. He deserves to be there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right, so we've discussed the batting. We'll take a short break here and we'll look at how the rest of the side is shaping up.
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
So, I say we've touched on the batting. I mean, we've touched on the openers, haven't we? Looking at the middle order, there are problems. It's good to see Pujara back in form. The fact that India are going to play Australia at home, I think, is an advantage. He's been a man in form. Let's be honest, across all cricket. So county cricket, he's averaging like 109 for Sussex. That was brilliant. He did really well in the 50 over competition for Sussex as well, by the way. He was scoring bucket loads of runs there against all counties. So, people might say, Sussex were in the second division of the county championship. But, it's like net practice for him, right? And he was hitting the ball well and he had to come up. I keep saying this, the bowlers of the calibre of Shaheen Shah Afridi bowling with the red ball in overcast conditions, and Pujara was uppercutting him for 6. So, he's a man in form. He's a man in good form, and he's been in that consistent form all year, really, across county cricket, and then coming back into the India side as well. He looked very good. We know that he likes to take his time, of course, and a little bit more so in the last 2 or 3 years than he previously did. It's a little bit more exaggerated at times, but like we saw in the second innings where he made his 100 in that Bangladesh test, he can go through the gears as well, particularly against spinners. And, we see him quite often coming down the track to spinners, but he usually nudges, finds the gaps, drives for the odd 4. This time he was going over the top and he was doing it quite well. Okay, it didn't always look as elegant as some of the batters, but he's a man batting well with a lot of confidence. He's scoring runs. I think he's got to be there. Virat Kohli is probably the big concern, really. Rishabh Pant, getting runs once again in Test cricket, which I think is his best format. Shreyas Iyer saving the day as well. I think Kohli is probably the only concern in that lineup, but I think he has to play.
Yeah, he will play, but if you saw the second test, I didn't see a lot of it, but I did read about it, and that Kohli did struggle against spin, especially. He had a very scratchy knock. So, do you think it's something which he can sort out? Do you think that's a mental thing or more like a technical thing, or what is going wrong with Virat Kohli in Test cricket? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a man who, quite clearly, we've seen throughout his career, he likes the pace coming onto the ball. He loves batting in Australia against quick bowlers in those conditions. That is when he's at his best. I think, look, there's this myth from the West as well. When you talk to English cricket journalists or even Australians, they still think of Asian players as being the best players of spin bowling. Now, the problem is that people like Virat Kohli are not playing as much first-class cricket as their predecessors, the likes of Rahul Dravid and all these guys who came in the previous generation, VVS Lakshman, fabulous players of spin. Tendulkar was a fabulous player against anybody, but even Ganguly, coming down the track to the spinners and going over the top, knowing when to attack, when to defend. All these things come with playing all these spinners in domestic cricket, right? They're not playing Ranji Trophy. They hardly ever play for their state sides. The top players I'm talking about, the top test players. Even Pujara, how often does he get a run in for Saurashtra? Maybe a little bit more often than some of the others because he doesn't play all formats. But, Rohit Sharma doesn't play. Shubman Gill's probably not going to play now. KL Rahul won't play Ranji Trophy. Kohli definitely won't. Rishabh Pant even, they're all just going to be on India duty almost 12 months a year, apart from when the IPL's on, and then it's just T20 cricket, so it's not the same. So I think that lack of playing these quality spinners week in, week out, which is what the previous generations used to do, and is why they were so good at playing against spinners, because there were so many quality spinners in India and the conditions that they had and all that kind of stuff, that they found a way to score against these guys. And when they came up against the Shane Warnes and the Muralees in international cricket, they were a lot more comfortable, albeit, it's a level up or 2 levels up in those 2 cases, but they still managed to find a way to do it because of all that experience they had of doing it at domestic level. And these guys just don't have that. So I think that's part of the reason why not just Kohli, but really, you look down that whole side and you can't say that there's real quality against spin bowling in there, in that batting lineup, in red ball cricket I'm talking about, which is why you come up against Adil Rashid for England or whoever it might be. There was a test match a few years ago where the New Zealanders came to India and their spinners outbowled India's spinners in India. It's...
Yeah.
And it would have been unthinkable, decades ago, or even a couple of decades ago, really. But the Indian players just don't play enough quality spin.
Yeah, very good point. And was just thinking that are there a lot of quality spinners coming up also? There is Rahul Chahar and there was Varun Chakrabarti and Saurabh Kumar is there in the team right now. There's Kuldeep Yadav. Chahal is there, but the Indian team just keep going back to the fact that they called Ashwin, after 3 or 4 years away in white ball cricket, kind of shows that the spin quality of spin bowlers maybe is not the greatest. So that automatically means that the batters who are coming up, they have not played against quality spin also in age group cricket or Ranji Trophy or domestic cricket overall. So yeah, brilliant point. And I don't know how, and we've seen that. We've seen Rohit Sharma also struggle in the IPL against spinners. We've seen Kohli struggle against Adil Rashid also in the, not in the IPL, like overall in international cricket, and this Adam Zampa also. So yeah, fair point. Great point, actually.
And also the Indian spinners, like you say, I think there is a certain amount of quality always coming through, and it might not be to the same level as before because now they've got the fast bowlers as their role models, these young kids. So they want to grow up and they want to be a Bumrah, or they want to be a Shami or an Ishant Sharma or whoever, because they've got these role models and India's producing good fast bowlers. That was never the case before. So a lot of people just thought, oh, look, if I want to be serious about being an international bowler, I've got to better be a spinner because India don't produce fast bowlers, right? It was only Kapil Dev and there was a big gap to Srinath and, there just weren't many coming through. But I think there are still enough coming through, but you're right, they keep going back to Ashwin and Jadeja and, Akshar Patel's in the mix now, of course. But it was when Chahal and Kuldeep were at the helm, particularly in white ball cricket for a couple of years, and then they just completely switched back and went back to old school with Ashwin and Jadeja. And it didn't quite work out, but I think part of the reason is because they've got an obsession with all-rounders, because they don't have a fast bowling all-rounder, so they need a spin bowling, or they need somebody there at 7 and 8 who can hold a bat, and I think that's part of the problem as well.
Yeah.
Kuldeep getting 40 in that particular innings in the first test against Bangladesh, that was a good sign that he can hold a bat in those conditions and can contribute if needed. Chahal is yet to really show that with the bat. I just don't think he's he's going to do it at this stage of his career, really. I mean, he looks like a proper number 11, doesn't he? So I think that's part of the issue as well. And that's why India have got that slight problem with what combination to go in with, because you need a couple of all-rounders in there, at least, probably a couple. And you'd say Ashwin's a genuine all-rounder, but you need somebody else who can also bat down at 7 or 8, depending on which combination
There's
you're going in
Sundar,
with.
but yeah, he's injured way too much. Like he's 21, 22, and he's been injured for around half of that. So unfortunate, but I hope Sundar can be a proper, batsman, which India are looking for, because he's been impressive with the bat whenever he's gotten the chance, and just hope that, he can remain fit. And it's unfortunate that, injuries just go and affect these, not similar, like a set of players, KL Rahul, or be it Rohit Sharma, or Washington Sundar, Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Tina Rajan, he's been injured, like all these stories, all these reports about how being injured almost every IPL season, he's out with some injury or the other. So it's unfortunate that, injuries just keep on coming and affecting these set of players. And really unfortunate.
At least they weren't injured.
Also about
when it was time to come in and be injury replacements, they were fit at the right time when they won that series down in Australia, weren't they? They were the only men left standing.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say.
Yeah, thank God for that. And thank God for that. And just one more point about Ashwin. Like Ashwin, the batter, he's improved massively since 2021, that match at SCG. So the all-rounder, how do you think the fact that, he's improving his batting also helps India's combination? Because now with him around, India won't fret as much when Ravindra Jadeja, another very injury-prone cricketer, when Ravindra Jadeja is not there in the team, even overseas. So, Ashwin can come in, because the Jadeja is not you can say he's not a better spinner than Ashwin, but he plays because, he's the better all-rounder. So now with Ashwin improving his batting, and since 2021, probably you can say he realized that to play overseas, you have to improve your batting, because India are not going to go in with an extra spinner. So how do you think that affects India's combination, the rise of Ashwin, the all-rounder?
Yeah, it's a good point. And I've just got a concern that they've sort of pigeonholed him into this box that, yes, he can bat, but he's still not our genuine all-round. Doesn't matter what he's done. He's got 500s. He's scored match-winning knocks in recent times. He's got 500s at an average of nearly 28. Right, that's every bit as good as. In fact, he's got more hundreds, I think, than Richard Hadley had in his career, and a very similar average. And they come in at a similar position, number 8. They're not, genuine all-rounders like the Bothams and the Kapils and the Imran Khans were, in terms of the batting. But then in the bowling, Richard Hadley got the most wickets out of that quartet of all-rounders, which everyone raves about from the 80s. But Ashwin's bowling record is every bit as good as Hadley as well. So, if you're really comparing him with players in history, and I know it's difficult to compare players across eras, but, his stats would show that he's every bit as effective as Richard Hadley in a different way, as a spinner rather than an opening bowler and the enforcer. I think that could be an option, but I don't think they're going to do that. However, at home, I think that he could genuinely be used up the order. And we'll take another short break here, and then off the back of it, we will discuss his place in the side plus the rest of them, and we'll try and name our sides for that first test against Australia.
If you love the language of cricket and want more, then head over to the 99.94 app, and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
So, Border-Gavaskar Trophy, I'm excited because I'm due to be out there for the first two tests in Nagpur and Delhi for SEN. So really looking forward to that. And I think that I'm just going to name my side for you right now. And this is as it stands right now. I know there's a little bit of time to go. Injuries can happen and all that kind of stuff. But I'm assuming Rohit will be back. So Rohit comes in at number one. He captains the side. I'll go with Shubman Gill to open the batting with him. And then it's quite similar actually to the Bangladesh series. So I'm going Pujara 3, Kohli 4, Rishabh Pant 5, Shreyas Iyer 6. And then I'm going to go, who knows about Jadeja, right? So I'm going to go Akshar Patel, Ashwin as the two spinning all-rounders. I'm going to play three spinners. I'm going to tell my pitch curators to make rank turners. Don't care,
I think Nagpur was the venue, right? Where South Africa, where there was that rank turner and everyone was like, you can't produce these wickets. I think it was Nagpur,
I mean, that was a bit too much, but do you know what I mean? Like, you want it to spin from day one. You don't want it to maybe break up from day one, but you want it to take a bit of turn from day one, just in case you're found bowling first. I'd go three spinners. So Kuldeep comes in at number 9. I think he deserves his opportunity. He was unlucky to miss out in that second Bangladesh test. What the hell were they thinking with that? And then, look, this is interesting because I'd play the two seamers. Ideally, I'd go Bumrah Shami. But who knows about their fitness? So that's the ideal situation. If they're not, then you've got Siraj and Umesh Yadav as the two replacements. And that's how I think they should line up. Unadkat, maybe if you want that differential of having a left arm seamer, deserves his opportunity, but Siraj and Umesh have been the guys in possession. Umesh has got the extra pace as well. Siraj offers you a bit more energy out there, a bit of something different. He's done well against Australia. The Aussies don't like him because they rate him basically. They don't like facing him, is what I mean. So I think that's the combination I'd go in with because you've got to play the three spinners at home. I think. What do you think? How do you think they're going to line up?
Agree completely. If Jadeja is fit, obviously he fits in at number 7, and then that will mean proper batting depth till number 9 for India with Akshar Patel capable of batting as well.
So you'd
and
play
then
if
my
Jadeja's
bowlers,
fit. No, but if Jadeja's fit, then you would play Akshar Patel as well, would you? Not Kuldeep.
Akshar Patel hasn't done anything to be dropped, you'd say. So
Well, is he?
I know both are similar, but
don't you need a wrist spinner?
Point.
I hate it when India don't play wrist. If they have wrist spinners, they should play wrist spinners. It costs them. I know it's a different format. It cost them in the T20 World Cup against England. England were. This is England, right? Good old England, where they couldn't produce a spinner for decades and decades, and spin was seen as something which you'd have a top order batter, and if you got a couple of overs just that you need bowling from one end just to hold an end up, you bowl a bit of gentle off spin or a bit of non-turning leg spin or whatever. It was all very friendly, and now they've got Adil Rashid and Liam Livingston and all these guys coming in as wrist spinners and out bowling India in the wrist bowling department. It's ridiculous. So if they can do it, if we've got somebody like Kuldeep up our sleeve, just play him. In those conditions, I think they have to play him, but we'll see.
I don't remember if Jadeja and Akshar have played together or not. Did they play together in Sri Lanka series at home? I have no idea.
I can't remember, to be honest. Usually Akshar comes in as a replacement, doesn't he, for Jadeja because of the similarities.
But then he hasn't done anything wrong to be dropped. So it'll be tricky if Jadeja is fit. I somehow feel they are not going to go to Kuldeep Yadav because probably their confidence in him, the way they've been handling him, I don't think they have 100% confidence in him. He's just a replacement player, you can say. So it's unfortunate because we spoke a lot about how he's been doing well, and then suddenly to be dropped for an extra pacer in Jaydev Unadkat and all that. So Could well be Akshar Patel and Jadeja and Ashwin as the three spinners. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Well, let's see. We'll obviously preview that series in a lot more detail nearer the time. So that's what we think should be India's test side for the next series at home, at least, given the conditions as well. Right, we'll be back in a couple of days with a review, a sort of look back at the year that has been for both India's men's and women's teams. But for now, thank you for listening and see you next time.